Guys, we are going to be playing Tetris Ultimate for our final challenge, and I am so honored to be here with some very important persons in the world of Tetris. Could you introduce yourself for us?
Yes, I'm Alexei Pashatnov. I created this game 30 years ago.
And you?
My name's Adrian Price. I'm the producer of Tetris.
Here.
I'm the producer of Tetris Ultimate. My name's Adrian Price.
Very pleased to meet you both. Alexei, what is it like to be here at PAX, looking at all these people? And you know, Kevin and I were just talking about how Tetris was a game that it was really important to us in our childhood. Tetris was the first game that came with my Game Boy, and I played it for hours and hours. What's it like to be the creator of a game that so many people have a connection to?
Well, it's been 30 years already when I feel like that. I'm very happy and proud that so many people really enjoy my game.
What went into creating Tetris? What gave you the idea for a game like this?
Well, I was young man, researcher and programmer, and I always enjoyed the puzzles and small puzzle games and mathematical riddles. And as soon as I got opportunity to put it on computer, I did it, and Tetris was one of my puzzles.
Well, we certainly appreciate and enjoy it. And now we're looking at Tetris Ultimate, which has all sorts of new game modes, and specifically battle mode, I believe. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Battle Ultimate is the new thing that we have. This is a better microphone. So Battle Ultimate, 5 power-ups. One of them's defensive, 4 offensive. So yeah, we've got this new mode that is for players that are, you know, not essentially the best players in the world, but just, you know, players that are into Tetris, want to be good at Tetris, and it gives a level. It levels the playing field essentially by using these power-ups.
So what was the thinking behind creating these new modes, wanting to give players a more competitive and social experience?
So it's to level the playing field. I think one of them is Buzzsaw, and that will clear lines for you, so that helps people like me that aren't as good as I should be. And then there's other ones that would cause mischief and mayhem for other people. And so I know Alexei here likes Carousel, which moves the matrix ever so slightly to the left on different turns. And we've also got a mode that turns the whole game invisible, which really is a crazy power-up.
Those were definitely some tough challenges that we saw before in our final challenge. Do you have any tips for our players today as they compete in this final challenge of Tetris Ultimate?
Well, if they've played it before, they're going to know what to do. But essentially, you know, this game, it's all down to the smallest mistakes. If you make a small mistake, essentially, that's it. You're going to be done with this. So don't make any mistakes. It's probably the best I can do there.
It's important to make as much T-spin as possible.
All right, guys, you heard it here from the creators of Tetris and Tetris Ultimate. Be sure to do your best in this next challenge. We will be right back with the final challenge and determine the winner of today's next level right after this.
That was actually super cool. Like, I did not expect to be able to meet the creator of Tetris today.
I know.
But
A
like,
wild creator of Tetris appears.
I am going to have to call my grandparents after that. I'm dead serious because as you were talking about our special connections of Tetris, Tetris is literally the first video game I ever played. It is what my grandparents purchased on an NES. It is my introduction to gaming, and I could not be more thrilled right now.
And it's really cool seeing Tetris kind of evolve. Like Alexi said, it's been, what, 13 years?
Yeah,
And,
30 years, yeah.
30, not 13, 30 years. Anyways, yes, so we're moving into Tetris Ultimate. We're going to see some new battle modes, and these players are going to have to utilize their best strategy and best skill to make sure they come out on top and win the day.
All right, well, let's go ahead and actually jump right into the game right now. We will explain the format of this challenge as our competitors start playing. We are actually going to have 3 different rounds of competition. The first one is just who can get the most lines in 3 minutes. Now, at the end of this, our players are not going to be eliminated. They will be ranked based on how many lines they got, and then they will be seeded into the second round of competition, where we will play sprint mode. Sprint mode, our players are competing to see who can actually get 40 lines in the fastest period of time. They'll be paired up against each other, first versus fourth, second versus third. The winner of those matches will then move into a best of 3 grand finals in that awesome battle mode that you were talking to the developers about.
Yeah, and that battle mode has all sorts of tricky pieces like carousel, where the board will actually shift 1 square to the left periodically. There's even a mode that makes the entire board invisible, so you've got to remember where to put your pieces.
Yeah.
Which I thought would be near impossible, but we saw some miracles last time.
Well, geez, I mean, we had a guy, Robin, who actually played the first day. He ended up taking the competition. I asked him beforehand, I was like, hey, so how are you going to do today? He's like, I'm just going to win the whole thing. And you know what? He just kind of won the whole thing because he is ridiculous at this game in Tetris. And he had one of those moments that you were describing where everything disappeared and he had to guess where to put it down. No, he didn't have to guess. He knew. He dropped every piece in perfectly in position and dominated the finals.
And you know what? We have some amazing Tetris players here as well. I don't see anyone that particularly looks like they're struggling a ton. Looks like Team Scoots. I'm not sure which player from Team Scoots, but one of Team Scoots is a little bit higher than the others, but still in a very good position, not getting blocked in too hard.
And don't forget, actually, he did mention that the player who is in first right now is actually the guy who finished second place to Robin in Tetris the other day. So we know he's a very strong Tetris player, and it looks like he's doing an incredible job right now of keeping an advantage over his opponents. He's actually almost double the score of second place right now, 6,000 points to 3,600.
You know, I wonder how these players went about practicing Tetris, because there is a certain amount of skill involved, you know, just the general ability to recognize puzzle pieces and put them in the right place. There's also familiarity with Tetris itself and having played it a lot before. And then, of course, there's strategy where you're not just playing against yourself or the AI, you're playing against other people. And you've got to keep that in mind and make sure that you're strategizing against them as well as keeping on top of your lines.
You are absolutely correct. And do want to mention to everyone again that no one is eliminated after this round of competition. The players will be ranked based on how many lines they were able to complete and what their score is at the end of this. We will then seed them into 2 teams, first place versus fourth place, second place versus third place. We will then have a sprint competition between those 2 groups, the winners of which will go on to play the grand final battle mode. And there we have it, the winner for Team Scoots. Once again, the guy who finished second to Robin on Friday.
I believe
he's looking
his name
well
is
positioned
Chris.
to move on.
Chris, we've got Chris in first place.
There you go.
And Scott is looking very happy, very calm, and very confident about that. Like you said, though, no one eliminated. Everyone has a chance to come back from that. That's just going to seed them into the next round. And again, let's tell the folks at home what they're going to be looking at in terms of that round.
That's right. So we are actually going to be moving into a sprint round, of course. That means that you're competing to be the first to reach 40 lines. We're going to pair people off first and fourth place based on their performance in the previous round, second and third. And if I was correct, I might be wrong, but I think that we're actually going to have Team Scoots versus Team Scoots on one side.
Kill.
Exactly. And Pterodactyls versus Mecha on the other.
I believe you're right. So it's going to be Chris versus Amelia. And I don't remember the others' names, but we're going to see who's going to end up in the first place spot, and they're going to have points that go into the next round. Is that right?
That's right. So the first place will play fourth place from the previous round right now. They'll be playing the sprint mode. The person who actually wins that match gets seeded directly into the finals, and the other person who loses is eliminated from the competition.
So we're going to see a two-person finals, and at this point, Scott has no chance of having both blue shirts in that final, which I'm sure is what he wanted.
Yes, that is correct. So there will be a guaranteed member of Pterodactyls or Mecha here, and it looks like we're ready to start the game, so let's jump into it right now. All right, and this is going to be our first sprint match. As we mentioned before, looks like we're going to have Chris versus Amelia. Chris will be on the left, Amelia will be on the right.
Looks like getting off to a pretty safe start. And Chris here on the left, very quickly deciding where to put his pieces and zooming them down to the bottom. A little bit more careful on the side of Amelia, as she knows that she did not come in first in the last challenge and has to be very, very careful.
Now again, this is pure Tetris. This is not the battle mode that we're going to see later. So even though players are competing to see how quickly they can complete lines, there's nothing that will be interfering them with their opponent. So this is just a straight race to see who can complete 40 lines the quickest, and so far, Chris is out to a big advantage.
But Amelia looking very careful. She's building up this side where she says, okay, I know that I'm going to eventually get one of those long cyan colored pieces. I'm going to build the most effective tower I can and get large. Oh, wow. But that piece she was looking for got dropped in the wrong direction and is going to block her from utilizing that big structure she made that would have given her at least 3 lines right off the bat, 2 lines right off the bat.
That's right, but now it's going to be a lot more difficult to try and come back from. So she's getting some good pieces to start to make her way back into it, but she's already 10 lines down, and Chris really hasn't made that many mistakes yet. As you can see, he clears another Tetris. A Tetris, of course, is when you get 4 lines at the same time, and he is well positioned to take this match.
At 22 lines, he's probably feeling pretty confident. He's got to keep that up, though, because any arrogant mistake of dropping a piece where it doesn't belong could screw up your entire strategy, and you could spend the rest of the time trying to make it down to that one empty space that you left.
You're absolutely right, but he neutralizes his even minor mistake very quickly right there. He's doing an effective job of swapping between the pieces as well. You do have the option to actually hold a piece if you don't like the one that was given you, but of course, that hold piece is the only piece that you can swap out with your active piece, so you are going to have to use it sometime.
Right, right. Looks like Amelia continuing to fight down kind of the mess that got made from her problematic piece that came down in the wrong direction. She has a few empty spaces, and she's going to need some very specific pieces to fill those out.
And Chris still continuing to dominate, just working his way down through these lines. 7 lines remaining. He's made almost no mistakes. He's got a clean run going so far. This is very impressive action, and it looks like he is going to be sent into the finals. And don't forget, this is a position he's been in before. Last Friday, he was in the grand finals in a battle mode against his teammate from Sir Scoots.
Looking very calm, and Amelia kind of shaking her head, looking like she's getting a little bit more and more flustered, knowing that there's only 1 line left for Chris, and that will be Chris as the winner of that round. Unfortunately, Amelia is eliminated from the finals, but good job, Amelia, and thank you for joining us. A hug from Sir Scoots of Team Scoots.
Well, Amelia can come back and compete tomorrow, of course, and who knows, maybe Scott's going to grab that Sonic Ringer one more time, and Amelia may find herself on Team Scoots again. All right, well, we're going to move into our second of the sprint rounds here. This is going to be Team Mecha versus Team Pterodactyls, so no team kill here, and we're going to see if one of these combatants can maybe match Chris in the grand finals.
And we've been talking a lot about how these two are the noobs, if you will, the judges that haven't been here at the next level before. They've been offering each other a little bit of support, trying to strategize together, and unfortunately, only one of them will emerge from this level of the finals. So we're going to have to say goodbye to one of them, and one of them will face off against Chris in the finals.
That's right, and that finals is going to be in the battle mode that was described before. So not only are you racing against the clock to compete as many lines as possible, but you're slinging abilities at your opponents that can disrupt their play. So it's going to be very, very hectic, and the person with the best pure Tetris skill may not necessarily win if you don't know how to strategize to get those abilities. And it looks like we're ready to start the game right now, so let's go ahead and jump into our second sprint match.
We have the coaches standing by, coaching over the shoulder. If you're a coach of Tetris, Kevin, do you think you're coaching on where to put the pieces? Do you think you're offering general encouragement? I mean, Tetris is such a mental game, you wouldn't want to throw off your player or make them jump and put the piece down in the wrong direction.
Exactly. I think a lot of the coaching for this has to be done beforehand. There's not much you can do on the fly. You're absolutely right. Because, I mean, it's the same, you know, when you're in a car with someone and someone's backseat driving and they're like, no, turn there, turn there. And you get flustered real quick and you make the wrong decision. That's kind of what could happen here, only with less severe auto accident possibilities.
Absolutely. These coaches have got to have a lot of confidence in their players now where they're saying, you know what? I've given you all the advice I can. Now it's your time to fly,
yes.
Young butterfly.
Absolutely. And fly these butterflies will as we are starting here in 3, 2, 1, go. And once again, this is a sprint level, which means that it is first to 40 lines. And already Team Mecha being very aggressive and very quick about the pieces they're dropping down.
Yeah, wow, already having many pieces before Team Aerodactyls even had 2 or 3 on the board.
All right, and a good little save there as Team Mecha is able to minimize the mistakes. Oh, and then immediately makes a small mistake, dropping that piece down in the wrong configuration.
And sometimes if you make one of those mistakes, if you've got an overhanging square, if you will, you can kind of nudge a piece underneath it to compensate for your mistake. In that case, wasn't able to find the right piece, wasn't able to turn it in time, and is going to have to deal with that one empty square, but opens it up right away, and Team Mecha is still very much so on the board. 35 to 36 lines left.
Yeah, this has actually been pretty close so far. That straight piece is a very nice addition there. Going to take out a couple more lines, and Team Mecha now in the advantage, 32 to 33, but it is still very close.
You know, we've talked to a lot of players and they've mentioned today that they are focusing on their strengths, trying not to let other players get in their head and just saying, what am I good at? And I'm going to do that. Here it looks like these players may have some different strengths. We have speed on one side and we also have very strategic building on the other side. Both of them are very even so far. Again, 30 to 30 lines, now dropping down to 29 for Team Aerodactyls. But we are seeing players counting on their strengths, and I'm curious which one will come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, Team Mecha just trying to minimize mistakes right now and trying to recover from that empty spot that was down at the bottom, but they're doing a pretty effective job of it, but it cost them a bit of time. They were ahead by about 2 lines a couple of seconds ago, and it took until just then to make that ground back up.
Yep.
And it looks like they're going to need a very specific piece. They're going to need either that blue L-shaped piece or that long light blue or cyan-shaped piece to fill in those bottom 2 lines and finally get back on track without having any open spaces.
Okay, and a little bit of a mistake on Team Mecha's side there. Could have used that orange L-shaped piece to actually drop down and clear out a couple of lines without leaving any additional holes, but that's okay, as they do pick up a Tetris, and that's 21 to 22 now. Looks like a slightly better position for Team Aerodactyls in terms of how the board is presented, but Team Mecha could come back pretty easily.
Yeah, you know, again, 19 to 20, these players are so evenly matched, it's very difficult to identify who is in the lead or which strategy is better. Both players having to make decisions where sometimes they're not getting the right piece and they're saying, okay, I can leave that square blank, I can deal with that, I'm going to keep putting pieces on top of it because I know that if I don't keep making lines, I'm going to fall behind.
Yeah, that was a really rough set there for Team Mecha. They had a kind of awkward group of pieces drop down, so they had to make another hole off to the right-hand side and drop some square pieces where they really didn't want them to be. But looks like they were able to recover from it reasonably well. Back on Team Aerodactyls, though, mistakes have been minimized pretty well so far, and they're down to just 13 lines left.
A cool feature of this game is us being able to see where they're considering putting the pieces, not just from the top, but we're seeing the outline of the pieces down below, so we're able to see their indecision if they look and say, oh, should I put it here, should I leave that empty space, or should I really build higher and let myself not get a line this turn. Really interesting and a cool addition to Tetris Ultimate.
And this is getting very close, and I see a little bit of indecision from some of our players right now. Maybe a bit of nerves if they know they're right down to the very end here. All right, 7 to 6 at the moment. This is going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, these players have been neck and neck the entire time. Whoever wins will be the one who just gets that lucky last line first.
3 lines to 3. We're getting down right to the end here. 2. Oh man, 2 to 2. Just about to finish up here. More pieces have been dropped overall by Team Mecha. Down to the last line. That is it. Team Mecha is going to move into the grand finals. Team Aerodactyls is eliminated.
And so interesting because Team Mecha's board did not look the cleanest. They had a lot of those empty spaces, but it came down to just being able to get those last 2 or 3 lines quicker than their opponent, and they had more squares on the board, so they were able to do that.
That's absolutely right. So we are going to have a Team Mecha versus Team Scoots grand finals. Now, of course, course, this is going to be played on that battle mode. It's not just one game. This is going to be a best of 3. So first of 2 wins will take home the championship, all the awesome prizes, and of course, that money for charity for their coach.
Absolutely. And this is really a cool story because Sir Scoots has won some money for his charity, of course wants to win some more, but this is the first time that Linda, the coach of Team Mecha, has had a player in the finals at all. So I know that she's really, really wanting to prove herself and of course can just see that $5,000 for her charity and wants to pass that on. Of course, it doesn't matter. $5,000 to either of those charities would benefit some really awesome, needy kids. But I think I don't know. Do you think we're rooting for Linda? I think the mood in the booth here might be rooting for Linda.
Do we think we are? No, I know I am. I am pulling full weight behind Team Mecha right now. Let's go, Team Mecha! Scott, you've already won. You're all right.